E-commerce sites have always been the early adapters of UX design business in Turkey. We as Userspots had the chance to work with most of the top e-commerce sites in Turkey, like Teknosa, Hepsiburada, N11, Koçtaş, and Gold. During these projects, our strongest reference and sources were e-commerce reports from the Baymard Institute. Now, please welcome co-founder of Baymard Institute, Christian Holst.
Wow, what an introduction. So my name is Christian Holst, and I'm the co-founder of the Baymard Institute. And I'm here today to talk about 6 underutilized e-commerce concepts verified doing usability testing. And what do we actually mean by that? Let me give you a bit of, if I could change the slide here. Okay. What do we actually mean by that, verified doing usability testing? Well, what we mean by, I lost my slides. No, I didn't. Okay, what we mean by verified doing usability testing is that at the Baymard Institute, what we do is large-scale usability testing of e-commerce sites. So typically we spend a full year at the Institute only usability testing a large group of different checkout processes or different e-commerce search experiences. And then we pool all those findings into reports on best practice within e-commerce usability. So over the past years, the past 6 years of doing this, we have accumulated roughly 400 or 500 specific e-commerce usability best practices. But there are some of these findings that we find where the user behavior we observe during testing is very strong and very clear, yet when we look at a large number of e-commerce sites and benchmark them, we see a very low degree of utilization of these very strong user behavior patterns. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. It's going to be different aspects of the e-commerce experience. Some is going to be search, some is going to be checkout, some is going to be sorting and product pages. Now, the first one is in regards to checkouts. Now, most of you probably know that having a guest checkout option is vital during the checkout process. But what we found is that it's not only vital that you have a guest checkout option, the placement of the actual guest checkout option is almost as important, because if users overlook your guest checkout option, they will perceive it as being forced to create an account. So these are eye-tracking gaze plots that we have from one of our usability studies, a recent large-scale eye-tracking study of Kabelas and Rai. And all of the test subjects, this is eye gaze for 32 test participants, and all of the subjects want to do a guest checkout. But notice what they're focusing on. They're focusing on the sign-in fields, the fields for signing into an existing account, which they don't have. So what we observe doing eye-tracking studies is that users devote a disproportionate amount of attention towards empty form fields. And in this case, actually focusing on the completely wrong fields. It's even so severe that some users doing testing will actually start filling out the entire email field, and only as they progress to the password field, they will actually discover, hey, I'm about to sign in here, but I don't have an account at this store. And only then start to look at other options. So what we see doing across all our studies is that if you use a design like this, which is quite common, the guest checkout to the right or the guest checkout as the lowest option, up to 60% of all users will actually overlook the guest checkout option when first looking at the page. Now, there's a very simple way to solve this, which we've seen during testing. And the most simple way is simply moving the guest checkout option to the top left. If you have a 2-column site, then to the left, and if you have a single column, simply to the top of the process. That will give an immediate exposure to the guest checkout option. Another common pattern we see is simply throwing all users into the guest checkout flow, never mind asking them what they want to do, and then removing the actual account creation after the order is completed. We call this postponed account creation. And this is very interesting because users will perceive this optional account creation after their purchase as just 2 additional fields that they have to fill, 2 password fields. Whereas if you ask them up front to sign up for an account, they will perceive it as 14 fields. All the address fields and payment fields are associated with creating an account, whereas if you postpone it, it will only be perceived as 2 extra fields. And a lot of users will actually opt in voluntarily to create an account. The next underutilized e-commerce concept that we see quite frequently is in regards to error messaging. So we're still in the checkout process, mainly in an e-commerce context. So we all know that error messages happens, and we should do everything we can to minimize the occurrence of error messages. We can do that by good labels, and we can do that by good descriptions. But at the end of the day, errors or input errors are bound to happen. They will always happen at some point. What's important is the user's error recovery experience. That is vital to conversion, actually, because if a user is not able to understand the error message or able to resolve the error, they are actually guaranteed to abandon the purchase. They are technically locked out from completing that purchase. So what's very important is the actual wording of your error messages. So we see here a couple of examples. One here simply saying, you've entered an invalid email address, or another one say, please enter a valid zip code. So this is what we typically see when we look at e-commerce sites. There is 1 or 2 generic error descriptions for a zip code field, or for a phone field, or for a payment field. What we see during testing is, however, if you actually customize the error message to uniquely be related to the part of the validation mechanism which failed to validate, then users will recover much, much faster, and they will, the success rate will be higher during the checkout. So here we see some examples. Instead of saying invalid phone numbers, it actually states what is wrong with the user's input. We see it here in the lower right corner. Please only enter numbers in this field. Or in the top right field, instead of just saying invalid credit card, Toys R Us actually says to the user, the expiration date that you typed for your card is actually expired. Or we see over there to your left, we see that Symantec actually provides the user with the validation, with the part of the validation which failed. And this dramatically speeds up users' recovery time and increases the number of users who actually get through an error experience. Now, this is unfortunately a quite overlooked area, as most sites simply use 1 or 2 generic messages per field. If we move on to the next one, so now we're out of the checkout process and we're looking at product exploration in general, or more specifically, we're looking at a product list that can be a category-based product list, or it can be a list of search results. Now, when users see a large generic list, a common pattern is wanting to narrow down that list, or getting a more precise list to their unique purchasing requirements. We have filters at most e-commerce sites. Here we see a user looking for a road bike. Now, when you look for a road bike, it would be fairly common to wanting the lightest possible road bike. Now, you can apply a filter for weight in this instance, but what we see during testing is that if users are not truly domain experts, then they're actually not able to define what will be the proper values to select within a filter. So they know weight is important, they just don't know what weight intervals should I apply to truly get what I want, and more importantly, not to filter out perfectly relevant results. So in this case, there might be the perfect road bike at 21 pounds, which is on sale, but if the user applies the first weight filter option, they will actually lose out on that. And some users are aware of this and therefore avoid applying overly restrictive filters, whereas those users just wanting the lightest road bike is actually not able to get that even by applying a filter like this. So what we see to perform well on the very few sites that do this, we call this category-specific sorting. That is to actually have sort options for specific product attributes. Now this is fairly advanced. There is currently only 2% of the top 50 US e-commerce sites that does this. But the theory is, or the concept is that you utilize your existing filtering attributes but allow users to sort by them. So this is a soft boundary product exploration for the user. They know I'm interested in road bikes, they know I want probably something which is lightweight, but they don't know exactly how lightweight that is. And then we see when testing a site like this that it can dramatically simplify the product exploration process to actually allow users to filter by, to sort by a specific product attribute, like weight for bikes, or it could be for TVs, it could be the depth of the display or the screen size. Generally, the most important product attributes within that product category that they're currently within. Another issue we see often when testing product pages or when users arrive at the product page is that there are generally two very common outcomes when users land at a product page from a set of search results. One is that they have landed on just the perfect product and want to purchase it. The other is that they have landed on the product page and found it interesting, but not like the perfect match. I'm probably going to buy something else. Now, what we see during testing is that most sites have different cross-sell sections. We see one here from Guild, and we see another from Walmart. And these cross-sells are, of course, highly important to increasing sales on the site, but they're actually also very important for end users if they are relevant. So what we see during testing is that those users who actually want the product, here to the left-hand side at Guild, a subject wants an address that she's currently browsing. She has purchased it and is now looking to complete the outfit. She wants to see accessories that goes with that dress, like a pair of shoes or a handbag. Now, that is not possible when the site only suggests alternative products. At the other end of the scale, we see that if a user landed a product page and find that this was not the exact product that I was looking for, but I want something similar, then a generic cross-sell section like we see on Walmart is inferior as well, because the user are not only provided with with alternative products, they're also seeing accessory products. So really, on product pages, what we see is that these generic cross-sell sections, they don't cater for either of these use cases very well. Now, the solution is extremely simple, and that is to have two sections, two different cross-sell sections, one with alternative products and one with supplementary products or accessories. We see it here from Tesco, where a user is at a camera page, and there is a section for alternate cameras in case this wasn't the exact match for this particular user, but in case it is, there is also a section for accessory products. And despite this being a fairly simple technique, we see that 56% of all large e-commerce sites, they only have one or a generic set of cross-sell sections instead of these uniquely catered to the user's current context. So the recommendation is really having two separate cross-sell sections. The next underutilized e-commerce concept that we see is also in regards to product exploration, but this is specific to e-commerce search. Now, when users search at an e-commerce site, here a user landed at Zappos, and he has searched for sleeve Mac 15-inch. So he's looking for a laptop sleeve for his 15-inch Mac. And he's seeing these search results and wondering, I don't understand why they have this, focusing on the backpack. Why is there a backpack when I have specifically searched for sleeve Mac 15? It doesn't make sense to the user. Now, we see this very often when users use slightly more advanced queries, including one or two product features, as they do here, like a brand and the size of the sleeve. We see that very often there will be a handful of results within the search results which to the user seems completely irrelevant. Now, this is a very serious issue. It's not just a matter of ignoring that one product. What we see doing testing is that users actually lose all confidence in the search engine of the site. Because how can the search engine be so unprecise and give me something that I didn't search for at all? So to the user's point of perspective, we see that they lose confidence in the search engine. Now, there is a very simple solution to this. Unfortunately, within e-commerce, it's only utilized by 4% of the large e-commerce sites. However, we have seen this utilized during the past decade or so at Google and Yahoo and Bing, where they actually provide contextual search snippets within the results list. So within the results list, you see what part of the search result page was actually triggered by my search query. So this is about increasing the transparency between the user's search query and each of the search results. And you can do this, we see a mock-up we have created here from Crutchfield. A user is searching for a camera face detection and is seeing a set of search results. Now, the first search result, the user is able to infer that this is probably included because somewhere in the specifications for the product it says face detection. Whereas the second set of results, the word which was triggered was face plate. Now, this informs the user that the second set of result is probably not relevant up front. Now, when we test this at live sites, at the few live sites that do have search snippets, we see that this drastically increased the confidence in the site search engine despite actually serving subpar search results as they do in this case. So this is a very important aspect in not just increasing the confidence, but also decreasing the amount of time that users will have to spend to actually find the perfect product within a list of search results, because they can avoid spending time on completely irrelevant options. Now, my sixth and last underutilized e-commerce concept that I'm going to highlight here is in regards to the product page, but it got to do with pricing. Now, there are a lot of products at e-commerce sites which are sold in different unit quantities or in different package sizing. We have an example here from Staples within the office category where they sell pens, but this applies for multiple other sites as well, selling groceries, selling consumer electronics, selling spare parts. There are some products which are sold in multi-quantity and not just a single quantity. And for these products, the normal attribute that is normally very important in e-commerce, that is price, users aren't actually able to use the price when the package quantity of the results are varying. So here, one of the items costs $6 or $7, looking like a fairly expensive option, but this is actually the most value for money option. But this is not clear. The user will have to deduce that for themselves based on every single search result. They'll have to know what is the quantity I get, what is the total price, and then calculate a unit price themselves. Now, doing testing, users, when testing sites like this, we observe that users simply give up. They will not sit down and calculate for a 200 search result, the unit price for each of those results. It's utopia to think that they will do that. So the solution, as you probably guessed, because it's been used in physical retail for more than 2 decades, is simply to provide a unit pricing. Now, the most surprising aspect of this is really that it's only 4% of the large US e-commerce sites which sell multi-quantity products that actually provide users with a unit pricing, a price per unit. Even though this is an obvious way to really highlight which product is actually most value. And this is important not just for users, but this can be very important for business metrics as well, because by providing a unit cost, you're luring users into buy larger volumes because they're usually more value for money. So for the e-commerce side, we see that it can actually lift the average order value and still help users at the same time simply by providing a unit cost. Now, if you want to perfect this implementation, you should of course also offer it as a sorting option, not just the ability to sort by lowest price, but the ability to actually sort by lowest unit price. So users can actually see the most value for money products that you have in your product list. Now, These were 6 different concepts that I wanted to highlight because over the past 6 years we've seen very strong user behavior patterns, but at the same time seen very low utilization rates at even some of the largest e-commerce sites. So this was my contribution for today, and I'm hoping that you will look into these, and if you have any questions for them, I'll be out there in the break, and please grab a hold of me and let's discuss e-commerce usability, or you can find more details on each of these findings at baymart.com. Thank you.